Hello, welcome to the Tone Sessions regarding how to use Zoom effectively, or what I like to call mitigating against Zoom fatigue syndrome or resting Zoom face. So, we're going to go over some functionality in Zoom to hopefully create some more connected learning experiences. First of all, I want to talk about how to record. There's a button here at the bottom called Record, and we're recommending that you record to your computer, and then once that recording is done, you upload it to Trinity Western's Microsoft Streams server. You could be uploading to Vimeo or to YouTube. If you do that, I would highly recommend putting it behind a password or unlisting it, but that choice is up to yours. You could also put it into OneDrive or a Google Drive if you choose, just however you want your students to access those video files. Now I want to demonstrate a little bit the particular setup that I have here, and I'm going to do that by sharing your screen. So to share your screen, look for the green, and when you choose share screen options, you can share multiple, if you have multiple desktops, whiteboards. I'm just going to share my desktop. So this is our PowerPoint slide for Tone, Teaching Online Effectively, Community of Reflection and Practice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my particular setup. And what's nice in screen share is that you have this annotation tool. So I can choose the color, I can choose the thickness of my annotation. I want to point out that I'm using an external microphone, which is really key to getting good audio. So whether you're using a microphone like this or a headset microphone, it's really important to get good audio. The other thing that I have going on here is I have my computer on a stand, so that way the camera is right here, and I have a sight line, so that way I'm neither looking down nor am I looking up to people. And the last thing I want to point out is I have a little ring light. This is an 8-inch selfie light, it's called, but any light would do, so that way you're actually casting light on yourself and not lighting yourself from the background. Because if you light yourself from the background, you get what can be known as what I call the pedagogy of shadows, if you remember Deep Throat from All the President's Men. And that's something you don't want. So getting a little light on your face creates a little bit more presence. And the last thing I want to show you is, sometimes you have to look out who may enter the screen, but they may add a little flavor to your presentation. And the last thing I want to show you with the annotation tool, so at Trinity Western, if you think about the narrative experience of a learner as they enter into Trinity Western and some of the initiatives that we have moving on through their students' courses, with their advisors, with their coaches, with their facilitators. And if we look here, I'm going to bring back this annotation tool. We might be able to ask the question, what needs to be in this quadrant right here in order to complete the cycle? So I'm going to let you all think about that as we move on. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and now we're back into Zoom presentation mode. A couple of the other things to pay attention to is if I come down here to participants, I can see who's actually participating, and I have the ability to mute them, turn their video on, turn their video off. There's also a chat function here in case we want to create a chat. One of the other things that I do to break up and chunk out the direct instruction and the demonstration is to do knowledge checks. And I do that by creating a poll. And you can create a poll by clicking on the poll button, add a question. I'm going to move this over here so we can actually see the question field come up. So I'm going to type my question into here. I'm going to have a single choice question, yes or no. I'm going to title this because you can actually create these polls prior to class so that you're ready to go with them. And I'm going to call this poll 1. And I'm going to save it. So now I'm going to launch the poll. And then you would be receiving the poll, and then you get to answer yes or no. And I can end the poll. And once the poll is over, I can share the results with everyone so they can actually see what we learned, and this allows me to do a little bit of a barometer check on how things are going. Because we are teaching in a screen-mediated environment, it's really hard to get a sense on what the learners are taking up. You don't have the same amount of information that you get in a classroom setting. So we have to become very intentional in creating connections and reactions. So there's some tools to do that. There's a reaction tool, so I can give a clap or a thumbs up. There's the ability in the participant window to raise a hand. So working out the protocols on how we acknowledge someone asking a question or someone wanting to participate is really key. So we have to be intentional in creating those situations and those scenarios. One of the real breakthroughs with Zoom are the breakout rooms, because you can engage in turn, talk, share activities. So if you had a class of 20, you can send 5 groups of 4 into a room or 4 groups of 5. It's your choice. And you do that by creating a breakout room. You can do this automatically or you can do this manually. And by joining, the other Scott has now joined that room. As an instructor, I can join that room as well. So now I'm going to be entering into this room. And then you can see Scott and I are talking to each other. Scott seems to be a little sideways with this particular assignment, so we might have to have a little discussion with him so we can get him straightened out. So I'm going to leave the room and return to the main session. So now I can close the room, and it gives 60 seconds, but also a note goes to the participant to leave the room now. And I can say, welcome back. So that was some of the functionality within Zoom that you can use to create connected learning experiences. Now I'm going to end the meeting, and I'm going to get a little note that says my recorded files will be converted to MPEG-4s, and once that's done, I'll be able to upload them. Thank you very much for listening.